Going live on YouTube. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just waiting on some of the attendees to join. And once they join, we can get cracking. How are you guys? How are you?
You talking to us?
Yes, I am talking to you.
Very good.
Doing fine.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm just waiting for people to join. Hopefully, they should start joining soon. If they don't, that'll be rather. We have 3 attendees. Hi, good afternoon. Let me see who they are. So we have Christina, we have Timothy, and we have Tony. Hi, good afternoon, guys. Thank you for joining us on today's Civil Service Fast Stream and Diversity Internship Program webinar. We are so delighted to have you guys on here today, and we're looking forward to answering your questions and hoping that you leave this webinar having as much information as possible about the program. Just bear with me. I am trying to connect one of our colleagues to join us. So if you could bear with us for a second whilst we get this, this technical glitch out of the way. Just bear with us. Hi, Eleanor, can you hear us? No, still not working. So we're having a bit of a technical problem. So if you can't, just give me a few seconds. Hopefully we can get it resolved as soon as possible.
Yeah, I've got you on audio.
Fantastic.
So that's great. Hello.
Fantastic. Hi. Hi, Eleanor. So guys, the voice you can hear is Eleanor. She's one of the civil service former summer diversity internship program. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So as I was saying, guys, I know this is not the best way to start the webinar, but this is life. These things happen. It's about trying to regroup. As I say, so my name is Orisi Komi. For those of you who's just joining, my name is Orisi Komi, and I work at Elevation Networks. I am the project lead at Elevation Network. So a bit about Elevation Networks, what we do. So we are an award-winning employability charity supporting young people, university graduates, to connect them with top employers and improving their employment prospects. So we provide training, support, and the Civil Service Fast Stream Program is an example of what we do at Elevation Networks, to work with organizations like the Civil Service to provide opportunities for students, people who are from sort of underrepresented background, from a low socioeconomic background, and from the sort of Black, Asian, minority, ethnic background. And we are delighted to be hosting this webinar today. And before we get started, I'm just going to hand over to get the fast streamers and interns who have kindly offered their time to join us today's webinar, just to do a quick intro about themselves, and then I'll do a quick run through about how today's going to go, and then we can get cracking. How does that sound? Good.
Amazing.
Who'd like to go first? Should we go with the ladies first?
Absolutely.
Okay, is that me?
Yeah, let's go, Eleanor. Let's go with you first, and we'll go Rebecca.
Okay. Okay. Hi, guys. So my name is Eleanor, and I did the EDIT for the Early Diversity Program at Easter, and I'm studying law at university right now, and I'm really, interested in the civil service. So I'm happy to answer really any questions that are relevant to that kind of background. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Mackenzie. I am currently on the Finance Fast Stream. This is my first year, and I'm doing my first placement at HMRC in Intern Audit. A bit about me, I actually did the Summer Diversity Internship Program in 2014. I then went on to apply for the Fast Stream and was unsuccessful my first time round. So I went and did my Master's in Public Policy after doing my undergraduate, also in law like Eleanor. And now I'm on the Finance Fast Stream, where they also get you to do a accountancy qualification, which is great.
Fantastic, thank you. And last but not least.
Hey everybody, my name is Andreen. I'm currently a year one fast streamer in my second posting. I'm a generalist, and I started in DWP for 6 months, and now I'm in base. and I'm going to transfer to the Department for Education in a month. I joined the FAST stream after working a bit in the third sector, so kind of NGO related, and I did a master's at Goldsmith University. As you might hear, originally I'm not from the UK, so I'm from Switzerland, and before coming to the UK, I studied in Switzerland, I worked a bit in Switzerland, so I'm kind of one of the FAST streamers who has joined with a bit of working experience, but so not directly from uni.
Fantastic. So just a quick one, for the benefit of people who do not know what the DWP stands for, could you explain, obviously there's an acronym, what?
Yeah, well, that is the civil service, is always acronyms, and we stop thinking that like normal people don't know what they stand for. Not that we're special, I mean normal people in the sense non-civil servants. DWP is the Department for Works and Pensions, and BASE is the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so just how the day is going to run, we have about, say, 45 minutes to an hour, so hopefully we should have more people joining us. The whole idea is to go through your questions. By that I mean the attendees. So if you have any questions, the whole idea is for you to ask and put your questions through to myself and to Eleanor, Andrin, and Rebecca. And just wanted to say, you know, there is no silly question. So every question is important. So please, 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 this is for you. This is to make sure that you leave here with as much information as possible. So whatever you want to know, whatever you want to find out, within reason, you know, get it across to us, and we'll do our absolute best to answer your question. And also, again, if you have any question, if you look at the bottom side of your screen, guys, the bottom of the menu, you see a box which says Q&A. So if you have a question, can I suggest that you click on that box, and then it'll prompt you to ask a question. That way we can actually see who's asking the question, and then one of us from the panelists will be able to you know, choose who you want to answer. So ask your question using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And if you have a question for anyone in particular, so Rebecca or Andrin or Eleanor, please indicate, you know, their name so we know who to address the question to. And like I said, we should have about 45 minutes to an hour. So depending on how many questions you have, if we finish off, if we fit in the next sort of 15, 20 minutes, then that's fine. So it all depends how many questions people have and how the conversation flow. Well, we have up until 5 o'clock. I think that's about it. And also you have the option to ask a question so everyone can actually hear you. And if you want to do so, again, there should be a little icon with a hand symbol. If you click on that, and then we can prompt you to be almost like a panelist, so that way we can actually hear get everyone else to hear you. And I think we already have one questions coming in, so we're going to get cracking with the question, and we have the first one in. So Eleanor, can you guys also see the question? So that's to Rebecca, Andrin, and Eleanor.
Yeah, I got it up.
Yeah.
Good. And whilst just after, if whoever wants to answer, if you can click the answer live button, and when you're finished, there'll be another button saying done, so that way you can actually say you've answered it, and we can then know how many questions have been answered and how many still outstanding. So that's just a few instructions, house rules, and then yeah, we're good to go. So who would like to go first with can any of the, again, just for best practice, if you're answering a question, read out the question so everyone can actually hear the question and then respond. So the first one is, can any of the fast streamers talk us through the application process? What did they find most difficult, and any advice? So who'd like to go first, Rebecca or Andrin?
I can go first, or unless you want to go.
Sure, that's fine. I can go first. If that's okay.
Yeah. Why don't you just go first?
Okay. So I just answered this live. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. The application process has changed recently when we initially applied. My understanding now is that you have a numerical reasoning test, a verbal reasoning test, a competency questionnaire, and then a situational judgment test. When we did it, we didn't have the situational judgment test. And then also I didn't do the verbal and the numerical test because I'm dyslexic, so I had exemptions from those. And then after you pass those, I think that's the longest part, the waiting, is they wait for everyone else to take the test to kind of establish a pass mark, and they mark you against everyone else that's applied. And then after that, I believe we now have an E-tray, which is the stage that I failed at the first time. And then after that, you have a video interview. And then after that, you have an assessment center. And that could be the end of the application process. And depending on what stream you apply to, there could be another stage. But for most streams, I believe that's where it ends. I think for finance now, you now have another numerical test at the end of that. And I think the question asked, what did I find most difficult in the application? Oh, I've lost the question.
No, it's still there. If you go, it says, what did you find most difficult, and any advice?
Sorry, I pressed something. Oh no. Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah.
The most difficult part that I found the first time around was obviously, actually, when I first did it, I didn't find the E-tray difficult, so I was surprised that I failed. So the second time around, at that stage, I didn't get any advice, any feedback, because you don't get any feedback until you've done the assessment center. So I took that year to kind of understand the process a bit more, look into the competencies and what exactly were they looking for in that E-tray assessment. And it was mostly reading the information and making sure you're giving the best advice and you've read the instructions, because I'm pretty sure I didn't do the exercise properly, which is a bit stupid. But you always learn from your mistakes. The second time around, during the assessment center, they've changed the name, but it's called the policy leadership exercise. I think they've changed the name now, and it's essentially you get a document full of information and you give a 10-minute presentation to an assessor, and you don't have the information prior to that. And I found that very difficult because at the time I wasn't very comfortable speaking, having to stand up and speak or sit down and speak on something that I wasn't very confident about. So my advice to that would be to make sure you structured your presentation beforehand so you know exactly what you're talking about. And that was in my feedback, that was one of the things that they really liked, that I had a structure, and I kept referring back to that structure, because at the start I told the assessor what I was going to do, and then as I did it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rebecca.
Maybe I can say what I found difficult. I think Rebecca gave a very good overview. The only thing is to consider kind of the application process changes all the time. So make sure that you check out the FastStream website, and there is loads of information there, and you can find kind of what the actual process is at the moment.
Yeah.
Also kind of to point out, everything up to the assessment center, everything is online, so you can structure it more or less by yourself when you want to do it, which kind of makes it, you can do it on the weekend, and most exercises do not take more than 1 hour or 2 hours. The E-tray takes a bit longer, I think, but kind of you can structure it depending on your schedule, which I found quite useful. For me, we didn't have the video interview. We had an interview in the assessment center, which I liked a lot, but apparently the video interview is very strange now, because you basically talk to you're like
talking to a human being, yeah.
But you talk to yourself. So basically, you're explaining yourself why you're being good in that or this, which can seem a bit weird. And then the assessment center. In the assessment center, I found the assessment center by far the most difficult. I didn't mind the kind of leadership exercise that much, but there was a policy writing exercise where you get only a very, very limited amount of time to read through a very extensive briefing pack, and then you have to write kind of a advice to a minister which option he or she should pick. And I found that quite difficult, because it's just like it is designed to make you stress out. So again, as Rebecca said, that the kind of important thing in all of this is kind of to be prepared. And in order to be prepared, I would say what really helped me is to know what they expect from me. I kind of informed myself, what will the exercise look like? How is it going to be structured? How can I be, although I don't know the content, I kind of know the framework. How can I adapt myself to the framework? So I can suck in as much information as you can about how these exercises run, what you can do, and if you can go to mocks, if somebody organizes a mock, or if you can go to an assessment center for another job. Yeah, this is all kind of experience that gives you a good kind of a good idea how it might look like.
Fantastic.
Something I would add on to that as well, that was a really good point, is to kind of know how they're assessing you. At the end, like we said, you get a report at the end of the assessment centre, and they mark you against the competencies, the civil service competencies. So there's value for money, collaborating and partnering, and all the other ones like that. So constantly having in your mind whilst you're doing the exercises, how can I make what I'm saying fit into these competencies? For instance, like with the policy recommendation, if they're looking for value for money, make sure you're including statistics. Make sure that you're seeing the bigger picture and how each policy will fit into the government as a whole, and how will it affect stakeholders and other government departments.
And maybe in competency quick, because I was not familiar with this concept and many people might not be. So if you can Google that. It's the Civil Service Competency Framework, and this is the framework. Every civil servant in the country is assessed against this framework, and when you try to join the civil service, you will be assessed against that framework. So it's good to kind of, while like a lot of people say, okay, this is the ultimate text, you have to follow it to the point. I would disagree. It's kind of like, you still need to be yourself, but it's good to know what they're looking at. As Rebecca said, it's good to know what they're going to assess. So definitely have a look through. You should look at level 2 or 3, I think. There are different levels. You should look at level 2. Look at those and kind of just to get an idea what they're looking for. Then again, as I said, my advice would be don't take it too literal. But it should be in the back of your mind.
That's really useful, because funny enough, because when I was doing research earlier today, and I noticed about the framework, in my mind I was thinking, what is the competency framework? So it's good to actually say you can find it on Google. And also, I discovered another document today online, which is tied to the Fast Stream Assessment Center Guide. So that's something, again, that that will be emailed out to everyone. So that's something that I would also recommend. Can you guys hear me? Because I think Okay. So that's another thing that I would recommend as well. So the assessment guide is another document I strongly recommend to have a look at. Thank you to you both. I know that question was about, so Aisha Cooper. There's a question from Aisha Cooper, which I'll come to in a second. But I just wanted to touch on this the earlier question. So I know this is more, that question was about this fast stream, but I thought, Eleanor, you might have, from your own experience, something that you learned from your application process, and if you have any advice from when you did the sort of early diversity internship program.
It's interesting actually, because basically off the back of EDIP, I was emailed to attend actually one of the trial assessment centers for the fast stream that the civil service is doing right now. And it's definitely something that if anyone's in like their first year of a 3-year course or their second year of a 4-year course, it's something worth doing, getting into EDIP, because actually then you get emailed a lot about other opportunities that could help you if you're looking to apply for the fast stream in the future. In terms of applying for EDIP, it's, I would say, a lot more straightforward. Make sure you actually apply for the right scheme, because I actually applied for the fast stream the first time and got through to the video interview, and then I found out that apparently EDIP doesn't have a video interview. So, so it's basically just an application form, and then you have a telephone interview, which can be a bit daunting if you haven't done that before. But you get interviewed by a fast streamer. And they're really understanding and lovely. And I think it was basically just a competency interview. So you prepare for that in the same way that you prepare for any competency interview, just, STAR technique. Yeah.
Okay, that's useful. Thank you. So we're going to go to the next question now, which from Aisha Cooper. And the question is, hey guys, my name is Aisha, and my first question to all fast streamers is, what has your experience been like working on the civil service stream, on the civil service fast stream? So I suppose you can, whoever, decide who wants to go first.
Yeah, I'll go first for this one.
Yeah.
My experience has been great, really. If I'd have to say now, I could not have imagined better. This does not mean that everything is like is fairy tale. It's a job like any other, so there are bits and pieces that are less interesting than others. But as a whole, I think the fast stream has been so far, or the civil service in general, not just the fast stream, the civil service in general, is such a diverse working place where you can do such a lot of different things. You can kind of there are so many opportunities where you can develop yourself. So I really, really liked it, and I think a big point that is always kind of often missed out is it's a really good employer as well for you for the rest of your life. So today I'm working from home. It's kind of like you can work from home easily. There is something called flexi time, which allows you to accumulate overtime and then take it. If you work long hours for 1 week, then you might be able to go for an afternoon, take an afternoon off the next week without kind of sacrificing your holidays or something like that. So I really enjoyed it, both from kind of the content-wise. It was very challenging, the kind of roles that I did, and they were very, very interesting. But also kind of just the whole package of the employer and training opportunities and development opportunities.
Yeah. Fantastic. And that's really essential, because obviously, I'll come back to you, Rebecca, shortly. I know often the impression that people might have of the civil service, it's hard to actually understand what is a civil service, because the name, I feel doesn't actually give, a good reflection actually what the organization is about. So if you can actually strip the name away, how would you describe the organization? How would you describe work? Let's put aside the civil service, put the name aside for a second. How would you describe work?
That is probably where I want to go with my first point, how diverse it is in the sense of what different things that you can do. The civil service is so many things, and it's so different. So I so far only worked in policy, and policy is a particular way of doing things. So I only have a very particular experience, and Rebecca can probably tell a bit about her experience in a different side of things. So what I do is basically I'm a specialist in a very niche area of government at the moment. That's this thing called the digital single market. It's the European Union strategy. You might have heard roaming was cut out a few months ago, so you can go to the European Union and pay the same. And this is something that came out of this. And so I'm a specialist on that area. And if our minister or the prime minister or a senior official has to go to negotiations, or European Union negotiations, or if there is some kind of statement needs to be done, people will come to me and ask me for advice in sense, what should we say on this point or that point? How should we phrase this or that? And I then make a suggestion to whoever it is it the official or the minister? And then they say, okay, we go with that option or that option. In a nutshell, that's what we take a policy problem, kind of look what are the possible solutions in that area, then suggest a solution or several solutions to the minister. The minister is then able to choose. So basically what we are is advisors. We're advisors on a very small niche area that is very complicated and that would be impossible for a politician to understand with the kind of the many kind of decisions that they have to take. So we have to kind of pre-digest them for them, put it in a form and the shape that is accessible for them. They can understand it and then can take the right decision.
Fantastic. So in that sense, you guys are the ones who really sort of decision makers in a way, but you make decisions on behalf of the ministers before then they then use that information to make, or you provide them the information to make a decision, or how would you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say decision makers, because in the end it's still the minister who's the decision maker. Yeah. But I would say like the information provider thing is good. Yeah. Is it a good kind of description? Because especially when soon it's around legal stuff or kind of policy stuff, sometimes it's very, very complicated. There's a lot of things that you have to digest just to come to a kind of small conclusion. And so you kind of digest all of this for the minister and take that small bit and say, look, this is the information you need to know. This is all that is relevant. And based on that, they then take the decision.
Okay, fantastic.
Instead of a filter. We're an information filter.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Andre. So we have two questions from Idea and Christina. We'll come to those in a second, but before doing so, we're going to go to Rebecca to add to the question from Aisha.
Yeah, so my experience has been really different to Andrew, as we said, the civil service is just so, I think the civil service is the biggest employer in the UK, and every role can be different. So as I said before, I actually work in internal audit. When I tell people I work in HMRC, they always assume it's tax, and then I always have to say no, I'm not involved in that. I work in internal audit, which is essentially I go into other departments within HMRC and analyze their processes and make sure that they're doing things how they should be doing, which is very, very different to a policy role, for example, which is what Angian has been doing, in that I'm kind of assessing the government and not working for something that's going to go out into the public. And that could be just, for instance, making sure that the publications they've written, which kind of involve HMRC's key performance indicators, which kind of tells the public how they're doing. We make sure that's accurate, that everything what they're saying is well researched and that it's accurate, and making sure it's hard to explain internal audit because it's so broad. Just making sure everything is going as it should do, and then just outside of
keeping them in check, basically,
yeah, exactly.
And holding them accountable.
And just, for instance, if they're not doing what they should be doing, we then have to go back the following year and make sure that they've kind of put our recommendations into place, which sometimes they don't, and then you have to go back again, which can be frustrating. So beyond internal audit, what I really like about working for the civil service is the support that you get. Whilst I was at university, I was really involved in like diversity and furthering diversity in the workplace. I did a law degree, so I worked for aspiring solicitors about making sure that the law industry was representative, and that's something that I've been able to bring into my role here. So although I work in finance, I'm able to do what I am personally interested in as well, and I've had a massive amount of support from my managers. Give me the time, for instance, to come here and do this, which I'm really appreciative of, and also because the civil service is also really dedicated to increasing diversity within the civil service, because we are supposed to be reflective of the society in which we come from, which I think is great. And like Andrew said, we get flexi time, which is, well, I use it for study leave. A lot of study leave, admittedly, but that's what I use it for. But it's a great option. Yeah.
Fantastic. Before we go to the other two questions, I think it'd be great to get Eleanor's view as well, and from her experience from a sort of the early diversity perspective. What was your experience like?
Yeah, so I basically spent a few days in the passport office, which is basically under the remit of the Home Office. Okay. And it's not something you necessarily think of when you think of the civil service, but it was still a really interesting, place to be. It's more of an independent arm, so it's less associated with government policy and more kind of just on its own. And I think, I can only really reflect on, I guess, the environment. The working environment seems very supportive, and there was a good structure for when you're in the fast stream in terms of you have a supervisor who you can report to, and they were all very friendly, so felt very encouraged to apply. That's what I would say, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. So what I really love as well is that, because for me, when you hear about the civil service, you have to think of people more in their 40s, 50s, and you don't really get to know that it's actually, bright, young people who work there. So it's actually good to see that, like yourselves, to say actually that there are people who are a lot younger. And I think maybe they should actually promote that more on the sort of mainstream media to see that, it's not just like old grey and there's actually young, bright mind.
It's a good point, because my conception was similar to yours when I joined the civil service. I was just like, there's a lot of old people, probably all white male or stuff. But as Rebecca said, it's quite striking. just as a disclaimer, there still needs to be done a lot. I think with the civil service is not yet there where it should be. But if you compare it with an average other employer, I think it's very mixed in age, it's very mixed in gender, it's very mixed in race. Like there is everything around, and that makes it quite the kind of atmosphere to work in. It makes it so much easier to join as a young person as well. And I think especially for young persons, it's like the civil service would strike me really coming from a different country as well, where the civil service is associated. You have to spend your career in the service to get somewhere. In the UK, it's really different. It depends a bit. There is to some extent still that, but it really depends what you can deliver. And if you deliver well, then there is a good chance of you getting up the hierarchy quite quickly. And that is something that is really, I think, it's a good step that the civil service is making.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. So we're going to go this. There are 3 questions. If we could try, go through them as concise as quickly as possible, that would be fantastic. So I'm just conscious of time. I want to make sure that we go through as many questions, all the questions as possible. So the next one is from Idea. Apologies again if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Sincere apologies. The question is, hey guys, my name is Idea, and my first question to all fast streamers is, how are the psychometric tests involved in the recruiting process? Are they really hard? Is it hard? Is it easy? Can you just breeze through in a second?
Like I said, I didn't do the numerical and verbal thing because I'm dyslexic, so I got exemptions. But for the competency, the competency one I can speak on, it's more so just assessing whether you are what they're looking for in a civil servant, essentially. So it's making sure your personality is the right fit. So I don't think that's something you can really say is that difficult or not, because it's just more so on who you are as a person. And what I found interesting is that when I did the competency, you can select different streams to apply for at the same time. Some I would get into, and then I think there was one that I didn't. So it's not like they're looking for the same person for every single stream. They are looking for different things within each stream, and it's just suited to your personality. And I found that really interesting, that finance wasn't something I really considered. And then when I got in, it's when I looked into it a bit more, and I was like, oh, actually, this does actually quite suit me as a person.
Yeah, I think so as well. I would second that. The situational judgment test is really, they're looking for a certain type of personality. So you can massively overthink the situational judgment test, and then double think, oh, what are they intending with this question and stuff like that. I think it's really about what would you do in that situation, and then you just do as you would do and not overthinking too much. And that's what and it worked out well. They're looking it's more or less, it's common sense. And that is all I can probably say.
What did you think of the verbal and the numerical?
The verbal and the numerical. I think similar to what I said before, verbal and numerical, it's a certain kind of test that you just need to know the structure. So I would advise you do loads of them. They're all online. You can find them. Just do several of them, and then there will be no surprises. They're all the same. It's nothing that if you've done like 10 or 15 online, then you will know what to expect. There will be no nasty surprises or anything.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I understand that there's the numerical test, and they've scrapped that now. From my
understanding. I think so as well. Yeah,
that's now been scrapped. So to Adia, you won't need to worry about that, because I believe that's been scrapped. It's just a situational and judgment test, and then the video interview. And if you're successful at that stage, then you go on to the assessment center, and then some of the schemes you have an additional specialist assessment after that. That doesn't apply to all. It's just some of the schemes, the scheme that you've applied for. So the psychometric test and the sort of numerical test, that's been scrapped now. So that's one thing off the list that you don't have to worry yourself about. Yay! Yes. So moving on to the next question. Aisha, so there's a question for Aisha Cooper, and what I would suggest, we'll come back to that, but I would suggest perhaps it might be better, Aisha, to join the conversation so the panelists can actually hear you. I think there's more to that question. I believe that we're better asked verbally as opposed to via text. I think you might be able to add a bit more context to that. So something to consider. We'll come to that in a minute. I'm just going to go through the first two first of all, Aisha. So if you're happy to do that, let me know. Just drop a message to say yes, you're happy to ask verbally, so everyone can actually for them to all to hear you. So that we can actually add a bit more context, and also for the benefit of the other attendees to also hear the question more. I think that's a really good question. I think people would actually benefit more from it to hear more from you about that. So going back to Christina's question, and that is, do you get to choose which departments you get to work on?
I think this is a hot topic. That's
okay.
What
I saw Andrew's face. Was like, how do I answer this? Okay, is this hot off the press then? Straight.
I mean, it's everybody's individual interpretation. I believe when you move. Well, actually, maybe Andrew can answer because he's moved twice now. I haven't moved at all yet. So.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm keen to hear what when you say this is a hot topic. I'm keen to hear what is that you want.
I mean, the hot topic is because it's like it's a constant topic of discussion among fast streamers, because like some people happen to always go there where they want and other people never get where they want. So basically what you get is you get a choice of 10 departments. As a generalist, it's important to say that I think for every stream it's a bit different. So as a generalist, at the beginning of every new posting, or towards the mid of every new posting, you get the choice of 10 departments where you want to have your next posting in. Those 10 departments are in no particular order. You can just choose. And I think there are 18 in total. So basically you just eliminate 8. And then they say, this is just an indication. We can't guarantee anything. So I've heard people that got like 2 departments that weren't in that 10 that they choose. And quite often you have a preference and you voice that preference to your HR person, or you say something. I personally never got to the department where I wanted. That does not mean that I didn't enjoy it. Actually, quite to the contrary. I was in 2 departments that I hugely enjoyed, and when I saw the job description first, I was like, not sure how that will pan out. Especially with DWP has kind of a bad, Department of Works and Pensions has a bad reputation sometimes, and actually it was so interesting and so stimulating to work there, because you work
by bad reputation, you mean bad reputation in the media?
In the media,
in the public, oh yeah, okay.
People think, but it was so interesting, and this was so kind of inspiring to work there as well, because like this is probably one of the departments where you touch the most people and you affect the most people, and you are working with so many people that like generally want to make life better for other people, and it was really inspiring for me, and I really enjoyed it. So I would say, to answer your question, you get a little bit of choice. I think in the end, not really. But the good thing is, if you have an open mind, I think you can make the best out of any place you go. That is my opinion.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah. I think mine was different in that for our preference forms, we didn't get, when you initially start, I think we all had the same form regardless of what stream you're in, and that you could choose from a list of 10 departments. But when it came to moving, it no longer became about departments and more about your development needs, because how the matching works is that a team or a department within or a government department will bid for a fast streamer. So it mostly depends on, for instance, I could want to go to FCA. Well, in reality, I wanted to go to Department for Communities and Media and Sport. No, Culture, Media and Sport. But they don't tend to take many fast streamers. They don't have many bids. So if there isn't the demand, then there isn't really much they can do. And then it's also about, like Andrew said, it will be a role that you won't expect to develop you in a way that another one that you wanted to go to will develop you, whatever that makes sense. So yeah, it is about having an open mind. There are definitely departments that everyone wants to go to, and there are some that people don't want to. And I think most people want to be in London, and you'll meet a few people who don't want to be in London at all. So it's kind of, but you don't really have much say over that. So it is about being very open and coming into this knowing that I might not get a department that I want to go to. I might get a role that doesn't sound interesting, but I'm going to make the most of it and make this role what I can.
I think that's a really fair point. I would just to add to that as well, because one I discovered from the research as well, that the fast stream is more about, you know, development rather than, you know, departments that you work in. I know, you know, traditionally we think more about, you know, what we want to do, either finance or HR, and we think more from a departmental perspective. But I think see this role as a can't even speak developmental role, and it's about developing yourself personally, your skills, but professionally. So it's less about the department. Yeah, great to be great as it'd be great to work in a department of choice, but as Rebecca said, you know, have an open mind and see this more as more of a developmental program and growing yourself as a person than, you know, focusing on the department that you want to work in. Again, as you said, the civil service, as I'm learning now, is very fast paced. As things change a lot. Again, you know, with new government, you probably have new people, like, you know, moving departments. You know, for example, like one minute you know, you have a minister who's the minister for work and pensions. Then next week they're probably ministers for, you know, home office, for example. So things change. There's about flexibility and adaptability. I think those are those are more important than actually, you know, the department they work in. So it's about utilizing your skill, because really and truly, I believe that all our skills are adaptable. You can adapt it, unless you're a specialist like maths or something, or, you know, skills are generally adaptable. So it's about having an open mind. That's my 2 pence. Yeah, yeah, fantastic. So, I mean, Ellen, I'm keen to also get, is there anything you'd like to add to that from your perspective? I know obviously you was there for a week, but I'm just, from what's your, did you get the chance to go to different departments during your time there, or were you just in one area?
Well, in the context of the fact that we were only there for a week, I think they actually made a big effort to let us experience the different departments. So we started off in the FCO, which was very grand. And then I went to Victoria, which is where the passport office is. And we visited Bays, or so for business. And then I think we also went to the main home office building as well. So okay. in that sense, we got to experience quite a lot, and each of the departments has its own character. It's very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the next question now. That's from Christina again. And the question is, did you prepare before the initial situational test? It's a really good question, actually. And this applies to all three of you, because I believe you all did the situation and judgment test, right?
Yeah, I alluded to that before already a bit. I did not. I mean, again, I did a few online just to kind of to understand what it might look like. But yeah, as Rebecca said before, this kind of situational judgment test, again, it kind of tests a bit what kind of personality you are, how inclusive you are, how you would react to a person in difficulty, and all these kind of things. So I think, yeah, in the end, I prepared a bit, but in the end, it was kind of more, I answered it from a gut feeling. So like, what would I actually do in that bit? Like, if I'm in that situation, just put yourself in the situation and honestly answer what you think you would do. There is no right or wrong. Obviously, there are more effective and less effective choices. But they try to find out what kind of character are you, and some characters do not fit, some characters do fit better. So yeah, I would kind of try to be as frank as possible with that one.
Yeah. Okay.
I would definitely agree. Something that Andrew said earlier as well is kind of when you take too much time thinking about it, you tend to overthink it and just think, what exactly are they asking me? What exactly does this mean? And breaking it down too much. And like you said, your gut instinct is normally the correct answer. Well, the correct answer, because there is no right one. And if you do spend too much time on it, you tend to start umming and ahhing and going back between different options, and then just picking one that you think may be the correct one, even though that's not what you'd normally do. So it is about being yourself and answering truthfully, what would you really do in that situation?
Thank you. Thanks, Rebecca. Eleanor, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Not in my experience. I didn't do the situation.
Oh, you didn't do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, just to go back to that question, I think the key is, yeah, you can practice online. So going back to going back to sorry, just letting it, Christina. You can practice online. For example, I typed it earlier today, just a situation and judgment test online, and there are organizations who run practice tests. So, and it's quite a common test that most organizations use. So you can find that stuff online. So yeah, the recommendation would be definitely practice. Again, just to get your mind, get used to it. So sometimes the mind, you're familiarize yourself with something, it becomes less of a, that initial shock when you first come across it, especially when you're applying for a role. So practice in advance will just help you become more comfortable. As Andrin said, the key is about the testing is more about the behavior and your, character rather than getting it right or wrong. So obviously we've come from an academic background. We tend to think more, get the right answer or get the wrong answer. So it's about moving away from there and moving into more, now it's about you as a person and your character and your behavior as a person. And honesty, how would you deal with a situation in a real honest, in an honest scenario? So that's what I would add to that as well. And people with some work experience. We'll come back to that, Christina, bear with us. So I was going to go back to the other question from Aisha, and the question is, I have a degree in business management and would like to know what schemes are best suited to me to apply for, as I'm indecisive as of the moment. And actually, again, I'll suggest again, if you would like to, we can, you can put up your hand so we can invite you to, be more to join the conversation, so you can actually, the panelists can actually also hear you, and the rest of the audience can hear you. Because I think, because like I said, it's quite an interesting question in the sense, like, being. I mean, what would you guys add to that, just out of interest, in terms of
Can I go first?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, you seem like you've got something to say.
Yeah, because this is something I struggled with also when I was applying. I have a law degree, then a master's in public policy. So the most obvious choice would have been to go onto the commercial stream, because then you'd be working in procurement. So that was my first choice. But I'm now working in the finance fast stream. I have no financial background whatsoever. I'm also dyslexic, and I'm now working towards an accountancy qualification. And I think that there is no typical route. There is no typical civil servant. If you look through the streams and look at their blogs that fast streamers have written about what they do, what their role is like, and kind of go with what you're interested in, and not to think of a linear route. But I think, I don't know, Andrew, you may disagree. I feel like if you are indecisive, a generalist role is very good, because then you can work in policy, you can have a financial role, and I think they give you the option to specialize later on in the scheme. But I think you need to keep in mind that there is no typical civil servant at all. That's why they ask for a 2-2 in any degree, because you don't need a particular degree unless you're going for the science and engineering, where they ask for a master's and a PhD, I believe. There is no preferred degree. I think there are even some medical students who now went and did the generalist scheme, which I found really interesting, which I think just further backs up my point.
Yeah. And it's the same with university as well. Most people go to university, choose a course, and then they realize actually that's not what I really wanted to do, and they do something else. So I suppose with life, that things always like change and chop and change.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with what Rebecca said. Like in my stream and now at my work, we have biologists, we have chemists, we have archaeologists, we have. I'm a political scientist. Then there are linguists. There is everything. There are people that did not do university, so like from every kind of different kind of professional background. And the question is, if you enjoy business management and want to continue, then you might consider something, maybe in commercial, maybe project delivery, maybe finance. But if you think, oh, I did business management and actually I would be interested to do something else, that is the nice thing about the fast stream. You can, like, as Rebecca said, with any degree you can go in any stream, so you can really kind of try to discover, and not to forget, there is no kind of expectation that you know anything about the area before you start, because it's a graduate program. They try to develop you into that profession, whatever profession it is that you choose. Why I personally thought about it quite a bit as well. In the end, I only applied for the generalist one and the House of Parliament fast stream. I'm really happy that I did not get into the House of Parliament one, because the reason is, I think quite generally in life, I'm relatively good in a lot of things, but not excellent in one single thing. So kind of the generalist suits me because I can, and I can get quite interested in a lot of different things. But then after a bit of time, I get bored about it. So kind of I get thrown into something. It's a 6 month, and I'm really excited about it, and then it goes so quickly, and then before I can get bored, I get thrown into the next one, and there is something hugely new, exciting there. Yeah, it's like maybe a bit ADS, but like I enjoy it a lot. So kind of that's why it suits me. But yeah, it would be good to hear from you, Aisha. Yeah, why you think about degree in business management might or might not be suitable for what scheme or something.
Yeah, and it would also be good as well to add to that what Endrin just said as well. For Aisha, it'd be good to hear what just putting aside a degree, just what are you interested in? What sort of things do you enjoy doing? You know, what are your, you know, what are you good at? What comes natural to you? That's probably the better way to phrase that question rather than what you're good at. What comes natural to you? So I think that's why I say it'd be good to actually hear more from you, Aisha. Just it'd be good to hear your thoughts. You know, what comes natural to you? What are you interested in? And you know, what's that thing that you know is quite you're passionate about? The things that you're passionate about, and that comes close to your heart. So it'd be good to hear your thoughts, further thoughts on that, Aisha. But good question. And we're going to move on to the next one. I hope that's helpful, by the way, Aisha. I hope that the responses from Endrin and Rebecca helped. And am I pronouncing your name correctly, Endrin?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Hey, I think we have Eleanor. She's joining us on video. Fantastic. Oh, she's gone. She's disappeared completely. Anyway, Tony, we will go to your question, but before we do so, I think Maria's question, we can answer that very quickly. So that's a question from Maria Teresa. And the question is there an age restriction for the applicant? I ask because I'm quite mature in age. Go on, Andrew, you want to say something?
No, there's not. In my year, there is somebody who joined, I think he's 57. So, you know, like, technically you would think, or I was thinking, probably being a bit ageist there, like, oh, he's going to retire soon. But it's like, no, the answer is, and yeah, that was wrong from me because like, that is the beautiful thing about the fast stream kind of. You can join at any age, you can join with any kind of like experience, and he is enjoying himself so tremendously. I think it's just brilliant that he is with us as well.
Yeah, and that's it. Go on, Rebecca. Sorry.
I was just going to say, with the civil service, when they're talking about diversity, they mean diversity across every single bracket. I mean, when I did my internship, there was a 27-year-old who had gone a bit later, now interning with the rest of us when we were like 20, 21. And similarly, on my finance stream, we have career changes as well. So people who are in their 30s and 40s who have decided to change careers later on and do something different. So yeah, there is no age restriction. And we also have a 19-year-old, I'm pretty sure, on the scheme.
Oh, wow.
So ways she did the apprenticeship and then moved on to the graduate scheme.
Okay.
Ways that they're looking for all types of people.
Yeah. And just to add to that, so I realized I made a mistake thinking the fast stream was just also, I thought it was just a graduate scheme. And I was correct to say it is a graduate, it's not just a graduate scheme because it's open to, as you rightly said, Rebecca, that's open to people who are changing careers. And there's no age restrictions. The guys have already said there's no age bracket, there's no age restriction. So it's open to anyone and everyone. And is there a compulsory retirement age?
No, there is not.
No.
No, there's not.
Let's continue until she dropped. I love that.
My first job was in state pension age policy, so setting the state pension age. And one of the big things that the government is trying to push is actually, for that it's good if people continue to work. It's good for their health, but it's also good for us because like it's important that people of all ages are contributing to society. So there's absolutely no compulsory retirement age. And I think of all employers, probably the civil service is the one that will let you allow to work as long as possible if you want so.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Yes, now we can go to Tony's question. So apologies, Tony, for it's taken a bit of a while to get to your question, but I hope you'll understand why. The question is, are there any international opportunities in the civil service? I believe, I'll get you guys to answer. I believe the answer is some of the streams, there is a chance, if I understand your question correctly, there is a chance to work abroad or to travel abroad in some of the streams, depending on the stream that you're going for.
Maybe I can take that because that applies to generalist fast stream.
Okay.
Obviously, there is the diplomatic one. So if you go to diplomatic fast stream, this is only like you do a 2-year fast stream and then you're gonna get posted abroad, like in an embassy. So this is kind of the obvious international one. There you become a diplomat. There are pros and cons to that, but yeah, that is a different discussion. On the international opportunities, in the generalist stream, there is a small called international development stream that you can do after your first year of being a generalist. Now, this is quite competitive. I think every year there's only like 7 or 8 places. So you have to kind of, once you're in the fast stream, you have to apply for it again. You won't drop out if you don't get it, but it's kind of like it's an on top stream, so to say. And if you're successful, then you go for 1 year to the Department for International Development. And then you go on a secondment, I think. And then you go for 1 year abroad to a country where the UK is giving international development to, like that could be Afghanistan or Sudan. Again, quite a lot of things to consider around that, because like obviously your personal situation and also kind of security. You will not be able to bring your family. It's quite often a very stressful environment, but obviously hugely interesting if you're interested in international development. So yeah, to answer the question nice and quickly, yes, there is.
Fantastic. Thanks, Andrine. Rebecca, were you going to add to that, or?
Not in, well, so far I haven't had the experience of traveling internationally, but I've been to Scotland for a few days. But I mean, I think that's something that everyone wants to be able to do, to travel whilst at work. I've had the opportunity to go to different HMRC build offices. I've been to Wales, I've been to Preston, I've been to Scotland a couple of times, which I found, well, I got to fly whilst working, so I thought that was
and paid for, right? Expenses paid for.
all paid for.
Maybe to add to that, because I didn't consider it that way, kind of traveling in your job. I'm now working for Europe Directorate, so we quite often go actually to either Brussels or to member states, but it's kind of in the job. So it's not kind of, I'm not working abroad, but kind of like maybe once every second month or third month, I might be sent somewhere, which is quite interesting, but it's more like a business trip. It's not, yeah.
I think that's a very valid question. I think
earlier this year, I think I was traveling somewhere every single week. I was having to go away to different offices, which I think it sounds a lot better than it is when you're trying to tell people what you're doing, but really you are just somewhere else and you're continuing to do what you would in London. But at least it sounds cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's actually not very much. I don't business travels, but yeah, that's me.
Fantastic, thanks guys. And the next question, the next 2 questions from Christina, they're both sort of interlinked. So the question from Christina is, or both questions are, would you know what the proportion is between recent graduates getting on the stream and people with work experience? Who would like to?
I can take it. I mean, I don't know the exact proportion. I don't know the numbers, but from kind of my experience in like talking to people and being in the same year, I think it's pretty. I would say it's pretty even. There are quite a lot of people that come directly from their undergrad. But there are equally, I mean, I didn't, and there are also people that did a master's, people that did a PhD, there are people that worked before. I think it's fairly 50-50, maybe, yeah, fairly 50-50.
Mm.
I wonder if that's every year the fast stream, they produce a report which is published, I think, on, if you just Google fast stream civil service publications 2016, they publish a report on the application process and what kind of people they've had applying and get through. So it may be in there. That'll be something to check, and that's actually quite interesting to find out as well. But something to remember is that once you actually start on the fast stream, you're not going to be working with fast streamers every single day. It's actually quite unlikely. I'm the only fast streamer on my team. So it's not something, I don't think it's it's something to be concerned about, whether you're concerned about being someone straight out of uni or if you're concerned about being someone who's been out of uni for a few years, because once you start working, you're going to be around completely different people that you would meet on the fast stream. So I don't think it's something to be concerned about, really.
And I think that's absolutely valid. I 100% agree with you, Rebecca, in terms of not being concerned about because of the fast stream. Again, see, the fast stream is more of an entry route, and it's about, it's about believing in yourself as well. You know, the fact that you've expressed an interest shows that you know you have an interest and you deserve a seat at the table, in the sense that it's a level playing field. And because someone has had like 5, 10 years work experience or so, it means nothing. You're there because they feel, again, it's about passing the application stages. But if you make it to the assessment center, you're there because actually you deserve to be there. You're there because actually you've demonstrated what they're looking for. So it's not by chance, or, you know, people tend to say, oh, maybe I was just lucky and all of this and all of that. Nothing is luck. It's actually based on your decision, because you're good enough, because you're excellent, and because you have what they're looking for. You know, so that'll say, you know, don't worry yourself, Christina, about, you know, people who've been working for how many years, because you perhaps actually have an advantage that perhaps people who've been working for a long time don't have. You may have a fresher insight and a fresher perspective. And it's about what the organization is looking for rather than the people who are there on the day, be it at the assessment day. So it's about owning yourself and realizing, you know, I'm there because I deserve to be there, and you're there to work. So
I think that is a very valid and very, very important point, is that fast streamers and in general, like people that apply for the fast stream, always try to compare themselves, which I think is very unhealthy. I always try to look for myself, and for example, I knew that it wasn't even a question because I wasn't in the UK yet, but if I look back, it wouldn't have probably been good for me to go directly after my undergrad to do the fast stream. It took me time to figure out what I want, and also kind of find my own way. And that is down to every person. So it's like, yeah, look for yourself and don't try to compare yourself to other people. I think that is something that is very important in the fast stream.
Yeah. And because aside from elevation networks, I've taken very interest in like coaching, personal development, especially on the mindset side of things as well. Because you know, because our mind tends to play trick on us, you know, tries to make us like undermine ourselves and tend to elevate other people. No pun intended with elevation networks as an organization name, so there's no intention there. But you know, the mind tends to try to, you know, elevate other people and think that, oh no, belittle us. But actually, no. The truth of the matter is, you know, we have organizations are looking for us. They need us. They need you. They need your skills and expertise. So this is why they're opening. They're basically saying, you know, we haven't opened out, like, you know, we want people to come in. So, and they're taking, if this helps, they're looking for over 1,000 intakes on the fast stream program this year. So there's plenty of option there. So by all means, you focus on yourself and what you have to give, and don't listen to that small voice at the back of mind telling you to, like, you know, try to make you focus on other people. And in respect to the work experience, you're good enough, you're good to be there. So that's what matters. And, you know, yeah, anyway, that's what I've got to add. So I hope that was helpful, Christina. And thanks to Rebecca and Andrew for adding to that as well. And so Aisha's question is, they said, thanks guys for answering my last question. I'm interested in the finance, HR, project delivery, and generalist scheme, as I've been an administrative assistant for a few years. So it's helped me with my soft skills, etc. But this narrows it down to a few of the streams available for me to choose from. I enjoy working with others on my own, etc. And a general interest in IT, working with numbers, data crunching, etc. I mean, reading that's pretty much. You was going to say something, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you say that it narrows it down for yourself, but for me, reading that, no, it doesn't, because you have you have the skills for like finance, HR, project delivery, and generalist stream, but you have an interest in streams like there would be digital fast stream, stream that could be an analyst fast stream in statistics, or a statistical fast stream analysts. So yeah, it seems like you could be applied across the board. And again, like it does not matter so much what kind of skills you already have. It's kind of what matters is that you are able to show a passion to learn and to improve yourself and to acquire the skills in the future. It's not so much about, obviously you need some certain skills like soft skills to bring in, but kind of the actual skills you'll learn on the job. Everybody learns on the job, I think, in every area. So I would advise you, obviously, that is a general advice, apply for as many as possible, but apply before all, like kind of generally do your research, and as always in life, I would say go for the one that interests you most, because you'll have to stick with it for a long time. And if you're not in it, then it will get boring and you will get frustrated.
Yeah.
And so say that this is actually a good problem to have, that you'd be suitable for so many of the streams. And like Andrew said, apply for as many as you can. I think in the first stage you can apply. I think they've changed it now, but you can apply for certain combinations. So if you really, really can't decide, apply for the ones that you're interested in and put them in an order. And then, I mean, the decision could be made for you that, for instance, if you don't, God forbid, but if you don't pass one of the competencies for one, that will be for that one. And then if you do get through for all of them, you can make your decision from there and decide, because it is quite a long process, I think, between when you apply and when you find out. So you could know better in the future what you want to do by that point.
Fantastic. That's a really good answer. And if I could add to that as well, is that you can apply to up to, that's actually the question actually, that's exactly what I was going to really answer, funny enough. How many roles can you apply for? That's Aisha's question. From my understanding, you can apply for up to 5 streams. I think that starts from 2016-17. You can apply for up to 5 streams now. So that is the answer to your question, Aisha. And
can you apply? You can't apply for an analytical and like the other ones at the same time, can you? Or have they changed that now?
I think you can now. I think we couldn't, but I think now you can somehow. It changed a bit. But best is to find out via the Fast Stream website. It's very informative, and you'll find all.
It is highly informative. Highly informative. There's a lot of information on there. And the FastStream website, for those of you who may not, so I'm going to chat the FastStream website so to everyone. So if you look on your screen on the chat section, you should be able to type it there to everyone now. For everyone now, not so it's www.faststream.gov.uk, I believe. Yeah, so I've typed it on there so everyone can see it. So it is a highly informative website, so I definitely recommend to check it out. So that's pretty much, unless there are any more questions from the audience, from the attendees, I think that's pretty much it. And guys, I hope you find this useful, and I am keen to hear from, we still have pretty much everyone still online. It'd be good to hear your thoughts on, so who's definitely applying, actually. I would like to hear who is definitely applying. Christina said, thanks for answering questions. Who's definitely applying? Who's still not sure? Or who is, nope, I'm not applying. And who is, yes, I'm definitely going to apply. So it'd be good to hear your thoughts, to hear from, waiting for the first person who's going to be the brave one to say, no, I'm not applying.
I think you definitely are.
Yeah. And if I can ask you guys, actually, Andrew and Rebecca, if you can describe the civil service or replace the words civil service, if you can replace it with your own words, what 2 words would you use to replace to replace it with?
That's a tough question.
That's a tough question.
Or it could be more than 2 words. It could be just 1 word, or just your own words. In your own words, what would you, if you could replace? Maria says she's definitely applying. Fantastic. Good to hear.
I think that the word service somehow needs to be there, because I think that was what inspires every single person in that organization. We are here to serve the public, serve the people. And it might not, like from the outside, it might not always seem like that, but especially in policy, the only thing that we're doing day in, day out is kind of thinking in one form or another, how can we make life better for in various kind of areas, in various kind of categories of people. So probably for a policy person, it would be life improver, and kind of like life improver for other, because that is what we aspire to. Obviously, it sounds cheesy and all this kind of things, but that is, I mean, if you I would say 10 out of 9 civil servants, if you ask them, why are you doing this? Why are you coming to work, and why are you enjoying it?
Question. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because we really believe, or we want to believe, that we can make a difference for people, and that is why I'm so passionate about it as well.
That's a really good answer. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I can't think of a catchy phrase like that, but what I do, or working on the Fast Stream, it'd just be a scheme where you have control over your career progression, and you have the ultimate support to take risks. And you have a great work-life balance. I think that was the most attractive thing for me. And something that I learned also during my internship was being able to work on something that you can visibly see the impacts of. I mean, just even on my internship, I'd be able to I was working on projects that would be in the news, it was a really proud moment for me, that it was something that would actually be changing someone, well, improving somebody's life.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So guys, what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to officially end the Q&A. However, those of you who want to remain online for the next say, would you guys be happy to spend another 5-10 in case you want to just continue the conversation?
Yeah, I think I have to run afterwards, but maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. So we're going to officially end it now. I'm going to quickly just answer the last few questions. So how long is the application process? So is the application process now open? It doesn't open until the 14th of September. That's when it officially opens. And for FastStream, it closes on the 25th of October. And for the anonymous question, I'll come back to that shortly. Maria, I'll come back to your question shortly. But I'd just like to, for the benefit of those who want to leave now, we're going to officially end the Q&A. So I want to say thank you to everyone for joining today. And we hope you have enjoyed it. We hope you have found it useful. And I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot as well from Andrea and from Rebecca, and I trust you guys have done the same. And so in terms of like next steps from here, so we have next Wednesday we have another webinar at 2 o'clock, which is the What is the Civil Service Fast Stream and Diversity Internship Program. So that's on the 30th of August and the 1st of September. So you can choose to attend either of those. So you don't have to attend both. So this is where we're going to go more in depth about the program and the application process, what the civil service are looking for, and that's also going to be joined by other fast streamers and interns on that. So on the 30th of August and the 1st of September, if you haven't registered for those yet, I would say check your email. We have sent out information on that. You're able to register online. And we also have on the 8th of September an evening with the fast streamers and interns. It's again a chance for you to get to meet the fast streamers and interns face-to-face. A relaxing, fun, informal networking event where they get to share their experience on a panel-style discussion, and you get to also network with the fast streamers and interns as well. This is going to be held at the Elevation Network London office in Kentish Town. Again, we have sent out information about that, but we will be sending more information just as a reminder. So keep an eye on your email inbox. We'll be sending more correspondence on that. And on the 20th and the 21st of September, we have the Insight Day at the Civil Service. How exciting! You get the chance to actually go to the Civil Service office, actually see what goes on behind the scene. You get to meet with the fast streamers, you get to meet with other department members, you also get to get an overview of the Civil Service. This is an all-day event which starts at 11 and finishes at 4:30. Again, this has been emailed out to everyone, and you need to register in advance. Unfortunately, there's a limited we have a limited available space, so it's a first come first serve, and only register if you're definitely going to attend. And the good thing is expenses paid for those people coming from outside London. So if you're traveling from outside London, your train fare will be covered. Unfortunately, it's not first class, not yet. You still have, so it's standard class, so your tickets will be covered. So if you are definitely going to come into that, register, book as soon as possible. And if you haven't received any information, send us an email on campus@elevationnetworks.org, and then we can send you relevant information. I think those are the key, updates and so on. So again, this is where we officially end the Q&A. I think Rebecca, you said you have to spend a few more minutes, right? And Andrew, you have to shoot off.
I think.
Okay. I just want to say, Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time and thanks for sharing your experiences. I trust everyone has found it really useful, and we hope to have you on board in other activities and events. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And so, the rest of the attendees, if there's anyone who would like to end or to leave, feel free to do so. Or if you're happy to join, please do stay around. Rebecca is still here to answer more questions. And so we have a question from Maria, which is the application process open now? If not, we've answered that already. So it opens on the 14th of September and closes on the 25th of October. And the next question is still not sure. Oh, this is from Smanga. Say still not sure if I will apply. Smanga, if you're still online, it would be good to hear from you what your, just to hear why your reasons for, what your concerns are or what your thoughts are, and perhaps you may be able to shed some light, or it'd be good to hear, what your reasons are for, why you're unsure currently, and hopefully we can, Rebecca can help share some light or to help you with that as well. So Smanga, you're still alive, so please, yes, let us know what your reasons are, if you are comfortable to share or happy to share. And the next one from an anonymous question is, how long is the application process? The application process, it starts on the 14th of September, and if you are successful through the different stages, the assessment day is in the new year, so January, February, I believe. So again, I would say between 12. Pardon?
I think they're aiming to have some in December as well.
Okay. So I'd say in between 12 to 16, 14 weeks is what's been suggested as the duration, the length of the application process from applying to, hopefully, if you get all the way to the end, to then finding out. So that's why it's about 12 to 16 weeks. And some streams are a lot quicker. Again, some streams you probably may not need to go through to the assessment center, or even go to the specialist assessment after the first assessment day. So it all depends on the stream you're applying for. So I hope that helps to answer your question from the anonymous attendee. And Maria, the question is, one second. I'm still in education, so looking for work experience. Maria, so just so we understand, so could you elaborate a bit further if you're still online? When you say is that because you're not sure about applying, or I'm just trying to understand the context of your message? Says I'm still in education, so looking for work experience.
I interpreted that as not applying for the grad scheme.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's what she meant.
Is that correct, Maria? Is that because you're saying you're not applying for the grad scheme, or you might be right actually, Rebecca? I think that you might be. That's right, spot on. See, she's got the sixth sense. She can read minds. Okay, that's good. So again, I think Rebecca, you can share, because you applied. Were you still studying when you applied for the? For the
SDIP, I was in my second year.
Yeah.
And then the first time I applied for the fast stream, I was in my final year, and then I applied again whilst I was doing my master's. But if you're not eligible to apply for the grad scheme, definitely go ahead and do the SDIP. The SDIP was amazing. Not only do you get real work experience, but you meet great people. Many of the other interns I'm still friends with to this day. I see them regularly, even if they're not even working in the civil service anymore. You meet fantastic people, and you get a huge amount of experience that you can use outside of the civil service as well. So it's definitely something I would recommend. And I think they have the EDIP now as well, which is if you're in your first year, I believe.
Yeah. So the using acronyms, forgive us because there's a lot of acronyms being used. I'm working in a university, so I got into the habit of using acronyms. It's a public sector thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the SDIP stands for the Summer Diversity Internship Program, and the EDIP is the Early Diversity Internship Program. And so those are the two streams on the diversity internship program. So the whole idea behind the diversity internship program, which might be a good route for you to take, Maria. And again, I believe that there is no age restriction on those as well. So you can be a third year student and actually still apply for the summer diversity internship program. The idea is to give you an early route into the civil service, so you get to actually see and get an insight over 6 to 9 weeks, and it's paid, which is good. Get paid for 6 to 9 weeks, so it just gives you an idea to see what the civil service is about, see if it's the right organization for you. It's a win-win. It's a win-win really, because you're gaining experience, you get paid, you leave there with a valuable insight. And Rebecca is a perfect embodies that. So you can eventually go on to the fast stream program, starting from starting on the SDIP or Summer Diversity Internship Program. So Maria, what I'll do, I'll type the name up for you. 1 second. I'll answer by text. It's called the Summer Diversity Internship Program. And so yeah, you can start off on the Summer Diversity Internship Program and then go on to do the Fast Stream Program. And the good thing is, which I'm sure Rebecca can benefit from, and also can actually share more on that as well. So if you do really well or have a good review from the SDIP, you bypass the application stages for Fast Stream and you go straight onto the assessment center. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what they have now. When I did it, because I did it ages ago.
Oh, so you didn't have it then?
Yeah, so I had to start all over again.
Okay.
But if you fulfill all the objectives, when you start an internship, even if you start on the fast stream, you set objectives with your line manager. And that's basically what you're going to do during your internship. And if you do it well and you satisfy those objectives, they give you a fast pass. So you get through the long stage of all the tests and you go straight to the assessment center. And then I don't know if they still do this. I was on their website today and it said that they still have the coaching program, which is what I had. I believe they work with SEO now, which is another charity, to give you like really useful information that can help you through the assessment center. I think it used to be Rare, but I think it's SEO now.
Okay, fantastic. So another question, Maria. The question is, Maria says, thanks for that. So what's the application process for, I assume you mean the summer diversity internship program? Again, the same, it's simpler than the fast stream program. The application stages are, I'm just going through the brochure. You should, the brochure should have been sent to you, but if you haven't done so, again, check your email, or we'll send one soon, or we'll send you a new copy. Also, you can check on the website for the faststream.gov.uk website for information on that. So the process is quite simple, 3 stages: the online test, and then after the online test, then you get shortlisted on the back of the online test. If you are successful, then you'll be invited in for a telephone interview. And if you are successful in the telephone interview, that's it, you're on the program. So very simple, straightforward, just an online test, shortlisted, telephone interview, success. If you succeed, that's it, then you get selected onto the program. And the telephone interviews, that's going to be in the new year, so February, March. And we will be running a telephone interview training workshop on that to help you prepare and give you as much, prep and support as much as possible for that. So that's going to be most likely going to be early December, late November, early December for the training. So we will be sending that information on that. We've sent that information already, but we'll send that more information in the near future. So I hope that answers your question, Maria. And I think so we still have 4. Thanks, guys. She says, great. So I think there's about 4 more people still online. So we have Mary, we have Tony, we have Maria, and we have Aisha. Guys, I think if we don't have any more questions to go through, I think that's pretty much, we're coming pretty much to the end of it now. So if you have any final question, please feel free to, ask it now before we officially, I'm sure you're all dying to, end the day and, get ready for your bank holiday weekend, long bank holiday weekend. But yeah, we're happy to take one final question. If not, we will officially end the webinar. Any more? I'm gonna do what you do on that. Oh, we have one. Can we find the competencies? For the summer diversity, I wouldn't worry so much. Do you mean competency in terms of situational and behavioral? You mean the test?
I think she might the civil service competencies that we mentioned earlier. So
okay. Oh, where can we find? Oh, that's actually,
yeah. I always just do a smooth Google, civil service competency framework, and then they break it down into levels. So if you're applying for the fast stream, they want you to be at HEO/SEO level, which is kind of like a grade. So it's like a manager level, and they'll break it down exactly into how you can demonstrate those competencies and what exactly those competencies mean. But if it's for the SDIP, still aim for those levels, but they won't be expecting it to the same standard. For the SDIP, I believe for the telephone interview, they do ask you, give me an example of a time that you worked in a team, those kind of things, which would fall into like collaborating and partnering. The competencies are quite straightforward. They just give them less straightforward names. So if you just read the framework, it is quite self-explanatory.
Maria, I will chat you. I've just found the link. I will chat you the link. And I'm going to post the link so everyone can see it as well. So I've just posted the link so everyone can see it. That's the competency framework. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah. So can you text that info, please? You gotta love technology, isn't it? All right. So final question from Aisha: what professional qualification are you undertaking, Rebecca? Or is this for the accounting, for the finance? I believe,
finance. I am currently doing ICAEW's, which is Institute of Chartered Accountants, England and Wales, accountancy qualification. They give you an option of 4, I believe, and that's the one that I chose. I chose that one when I did some research. I saw that it was kind of it was what they get you know, in the big four accountancy firms like Deloitte, PwC, Ernst & Young, that's what they get their trainees to do. So I thought that was really well respected, and that's the one that I ended up going for. But it also depends on you. Each qualification is different. I think some are more technical, like the ICAW is one, and then some are more kind of financial management or management accounting. For instance, you have Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, which is what a few other people have gone for. But if that is something you're considering, I would say look into the qualification and how they examine them. Because, for instance, with this one, there are 15 exams, and they are very, very tough exams. Whereas for others, there are less exams, and they're examined in a different way. For instance, some are computer-based, whereas mine are written. And it depends on what you think, what you would prefer, basically.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rebecca. On that note, we are going to now bring it to an official close for the day. And I would like to thank you for you're welcome, Aisha. Aisha says thank you. You're welcome. And it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you for joining in and for participating and for, you know, asking questions. And I hope, I'm sure Rebecca also was the same. We hope that you have found it useful. From your responses, it sounds like you have found it useful. And you know, again, like I said at the beginning, as an organization, Elevation Networks, we are here to support you and to give you the best possible chance, you know, to have a successful application. We know that the civil service are keen to onboard new talents, and they're keen to onboard people like yourself. So you are the next, you know, generation of talent. So there is no, this is an open, you know, is an opportunity for you guys to, you know, become the next, you know, thinkers and the next solution, you know, solutions to the questions and problems that we have. And as Andrew said earlier, you know, see the civil service as an organization that is here to serve the general public. So this is a chance for you to use your passion, you know, your skills to something that you're passionate about, you know, serving your local community, serving your, you know, the nation, and, you know, really helping people, you know, who need the help. So it is a fantastic opportunity. I wish I was, you know, I wouldn't say I wish I had the opportunity to do so, because I can apply for it if I wanted to. Obviously, my line of work and what I do, I'm still serving with a different capacity, but just not as a civil servant. So, so we're here to help you as an organization. Please, you know, get in touch with us if you have any questions, if you need any extra support, if you want to pop into the office. We will be having office drop-in days in October, and even now you can still book an appointment if you want to come in to speak to one of us. You know, we're here to support you. So grab hold of every opportunity possible. And I would like to say a special thank you to Rebecca for, you know, spending an extra, you know, half an hour. You know, this is now 5:30. You know, just give an extra bit of your time to join. And I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have. I like this kind of stuff.
Fantastic. I mean, I'll give it. If you want to say any final thing any final remark before we officially close, over to you.
Yeah, just that the fast stream, I think people kind of find it quite daunting initially, but it is really just about being yourself. That's what they value the most, and it's not really anything to be scared of. It's a long application process. I think that's what is the most difficult thing about it, that it's so long. Well, when I did it, it was even longer than it is now, but it's definitely doable. It's just about being calm about it and taking your time and really just making sure you know what you're doing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks for those final thoughts, Rebecca. And thank you to Aisha and Maria. Yeah, I can see you both still online. Thanks to you both, and hope you guys will be joining us for the next one, which will be on the 30th of August or the 1st of September. Thanks again. Have a lovely weekend. Have a great bank holiday weekend, and speak to you soon. Bye for now.